Hey everybody, Rory McDonald from MacDon and Associates coming to you with the next episode of Tuesdays with Rory. Got a special guest in the studio today, a buddy of mine, Joe Zarzycki, real estate agent extraordinaire in a lot of ways down in North Carolina, but he's got a super cool story, a super cool background. So I'm really excited to have him on, and we're going to get into some really cool stuff. What's happening in North Carolina right now, and just kind of your experience so far in the market. But before we jump into that, share with everybody a little bit of who you are and what you're all about.
Yeah, well, I appreciate the intro, man. It's pretty good. Extraordinaire, special, a lot of words being thrown out there. No, I joined the military probably when I was 21, 22, commissioned back in 2015. Became a V-22 pilot. So what that all entailed is originally I went down to Quantico, Virginia for the basic school. All Marine Corps officers go through there. Went through TBS, and then from there on to Pensacola, Florida, where I started my flight training. Flew single engine and helicopters there, and then went to Corpus Christi, Texas, where I flew multi-engine, T-44 there, and then finally made my way to North Carolina. Probably about 2018, actually right when Florence hit. I don't know if you remember Hurricane Florence.
No, I live in Michigan.
Yeah, well,
we hear about them.
Yeah. No, so it was a big Category 3 hurricane that sat right off the coast, and it was right as I was going through what we call the Fleet Readiness Squadron for the V-22, and it's before you actually hit your fleet unit. Was about to close on a house in Wilmington, and literally the day that we were supposed to close, Florence made landfall and delayed our closing because we had a branch probably about this thick, yay long, go right through what we call the frog or the finish room over the garage. And nobody was living there at the time. The people that had lived there, the sellers, they had moved out already. And just water leaked all through the room over the garage and then into the garage, and mold shot up. And so it delayed our closing probably by about 30, 40 days. So
oh my gosh.
Crazy time. But yeah, to get back to it, after all that craziness, ended up going to a fleet unit that was on the East Coast, VMM 266, and then that's where I picked up aircraft commander for the V-22. In the middle of transitioning out of the Marine Corps. It was a good time, had a lot of fun, but it was time for me to move on, and had a great realtor who realtor is what they like to say, that I bought a house from, and she talked to me about going into real estate and with Keller Williams, and so that's what I ended up doing. I ended up following her in there and trying to follow in her footsteps. She provided such an awesome experience for me when I was doing it, and still want to continue to fly, and I'm hoping to continue to do that as well as real estate, and we'll see how busy it gets and where it takes me.
Yeah, right on, man.
Yeah.
I think it's so cool. Like, one of the things, I'm an EXP agent. You're
right.
a KW agent.
Yep.
There's always this like, I don't want to say animosity. That's not the right word, but there's this like back and forth that happens, not just KW and EXP, any agencies, right?
Sure.
Where it's like, no, I don't want to talk to you. I only want to talk to these people who are my agency, and vice versa. Like, I'm so proud to be partnered with you in so many ways when it comes to working with you and referral base.
Appreciate that.
Strictly because it's coming from the standpoint of really just taking care of clients, not necessarily trying to keep things in house.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. And I think from what I've seen, the better agents are always looking for a win-win situation, and they understand that there's competition, but you still have to cooperate with other people. Yeah. And you're not going to be successful on your own, and you're not going to be successful unless you bring in other people who, like for you, with your experience and with you reaching out, I felt super fortunate. I feel super fortunate to be able to be here and talk to you. And I, like I told you earlier, I'm just like a sponge. I'm trying to soak it all up. And I think you hit the nail on the head, man. Like, it's about cooperation and, creating that win-win scenario for everybody, really, your clients and other agents as well. 100%.
So getting into that, obviously you have a background with military.
Yep.
One of the things that a lot of, there's in a lot of ways, people don't understand the typical VA buyer, the VA process when it comes to purchasing, not necessarily focusing on the loan, right? Like there's a lot of details, and this is United States wide, where there's requirements that VA loans have where they have to go and they have to have pest inspections and termite inspections. And these are things that are just required, and typically they're paid for by the seller 99% of the time, right? There's instances where it's negotiated in that a realtor will pay for it or things like that. Like that happens, but there's little intricacies and there's differences, but a lot of times people look at that and they go, I don't want to touch that offer. I don't want to move forward with that offer.
Yep.
I'd rather sit there and wait. This is what we've experienced here in Michigan. I'm going to sit and wait. The market's hot. I'm going to get that cash offer. The buyer putting 50% down. That's a conventional loan or whatever it is. And they avoid the VA offers. Are you guys noticing that down in North Carolina too?
There definitely was a period where that was a thing. I mean, the other side of it, though, is with being so close to Camp Lejeune, New River, Stone Bay, the 3 Marine Corps bases that are right around there, you really don't have an option. But as you started to go further south to where I live in Wilmington, people started to be a little bit more picky. Now, the upside of that, though, is with today's market, and you let me know if this has been going this trend here, you're starting to see houses sit on the market for a lot longer than what they were. Interest rates are rising, which means that there's less buyers. There's less people that are able to afford what they were able to afford, a couple months ago when interest rates were sitting at 5%. So you're starting to see houses sit on the market for longer. You're starting to see an increased competition for the buyers that are out there by the sellers. So it's not, people aren't coming in with like, hey, cash offers, sellers, you don't need to do anything. You just list that house and I'll come in and buy it up, right? Like it's a little more competitive and people are asking for concessions and, they're not waiving inspections. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, yep. And getting it, not waiving appraisals, not waiving inspections, like you said. And so in a lot of ways, it helps, at least what I'm noticing, because we've got Selfridge right around the corner.
Right.
And so we work with a lot of the guys that come on base there.
Yeah.
When it comes to them purchasing, some of them don't want to live on base.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, majority of them don't want to live on base.
Yep. I'd say most people, if they can be off base, would probably do it, man.
Sure. So, one of the big areas, Chesterfield is huge for us when it comes to finding good quality houses. Because reality is you guys are working on base. You come home and you want to be able to enjoy your backyard. You want to be able to enjoy the water. And that's one of the things that's over there. A lot of cool parks and things like that too.
Oh, for sure. It's what makes this area special, right?
Yeah, for sure. So, we're noticing that too. The change, kind of shifting of the market, going from not necessarily all the way to a buyer's market.
Yeah.
Because inventory wise, it's not there yet.
Mm-hmm.
But we're seeing it level out a ton here. What's it like in North Carolina for you guys? Are you noticing more of because this is what it was like for us, and I think this is nationwide.
Yeah.
This insane number of purchasers, crazy number of purchasers, because the interest rates were 2.5%, 3%, right?
Yep.
And one seller comes on in the neighborhood, right? There's just no inventory. And so naturally people are going crazy with bids on these homes.
Yeah.
Is that kind of what you guys were seeing in months past, years past even?
Yeah. I think there was a culmination of things that happened. So what you just touched on with just across the nation, how real estate was going for everybody, where you had interest rates that were so low, builders couldn't keep up. And then you had the supply chain issues. So builders weren't making the amount of homes that they should have been, which is also decreasing inventory. So you had so many buyers trying to get into this market at a time when it was really financially smart with the interest rates that are good. I don't know if we'll ever see 2% ever again, unless there's like another pandemic, right?
Sure.
But you also had this going on in Wilmington. You had a coastal town where you could get a lot of property, you can get a lot of square footage in the house, and it was undervalued for a long time. When I first bought in 2018, it was undervalued. In fact, the first house that I bought went for $350,000. That home is now close to $600,000.
Wow.
And
so you purchased in 2018.
That's 2018, right? And that's before COVID. And then as you start
We're talking
to see
4 years, the value of the property doubling.
Exactly. That's crazy.
Wild.
But that's the whole Wilmington market, because it was so undervalued for so long. Where else are you going to get coastal property for that cheap? You're not going to get it on the West Coast.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, and as you move further northeast, you're not going to get it. So you're seeing people coming from New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, and they're flooding this area. On top of that, you have these you have outside investors that are getting into the short-term rental market. And I think I want to say it was 16%. There was a chart that said 16% of the residential homes that were bought in the last year in North Carolina, they were from outside investors coming in and buying it up, turning them into Airbnb short-term rentals. So, I mean, that's driving the prices up in the area.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's finally starting to slow down, right? It's finally starting to slow down, but even still, Wilmington is still a hot market. You're still seeing below 2 months of inventory on the market. But the upside for buyers, is it is becoming more competitive. They're not, like we said, waiving stuff. They're not waiving inspections. They're not going like, hey, I don't need to do this appraisal. I don't need to do this, inspection. Like we'll just pay you out whatever you want, whatever the seller needs, just to try and beat out an offer. I had a buddy who bought a house. He paid $50,000 over asking price 6 months ago, and now I bet you he's
kicking himself. Yeah. Just trying to fight for that 5% interest rate, right?
Yeah,
which is crazy now because it's we're almost at 7% or maybe even past.
Yeah, I think we're past at this point.
Yeah, that's wild. So here's another thing. You coming from the military, very regimented, task oriented, super structural, right? How does that? Because I'm not from that background. Right. I'm very much so like, what is it? Left brain, right brain. Like, is it left brain? That's side? Yeah. Which one's which? I always get it mixed up. Either way,
I want to say it's your left brain, or you know what? I couldn't tell you.
Either way,
screwed up.
I'm very much so. Whatever it is, the more creative side is, right? Like that's more me, where I float through the day in a lot of ways, and like not to say that that helps me in a lot of ways. It helps me be creative with fixing whatever the problems might be, but
which you need in this market.
100%. So now coming from your perspective, right?
Sure.
We're like you kind of float between the two. I'm sure you have to as a real estate agent, but from your perspective, coming from the military, how is that putting you in a position, separating you from other realtors in your market? Because here's one of the things. I'll say that question again in a second, because one of the things that I'm noticing is in the last year and a half, 2 years,
right?
A lot of people have gotten this fear of missing out. And so they're like, hey, I'm going to get my real estate license.
That FOMO.
Yeah. I got to get my real estate license. I'm seeing everybody do it. This is the sexy thing to do. And so they go and they get their real estate license. And now things aren't as easy as they were in 2020, 2021, right? We're having a grind. Things are getting difficult. These interest rates are making it difficult for us as agents across the nation.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So me looking back and tapping into my past when it came to really my education background, being able to educate my clients well, right?
Yep.
And then two, knowing what it was like pre-COVID, knowing it was like in the middle of COVID, being able to kind of take those two things and combine them together. With your military background, I'm curious, all of those things probably applied to you, but now applying your military background on top of that, what is it, how is that helping you and separating you as the go-to agent in North Carolina?
I think part of it's the military. I think part of it is having gone through flight school. I don't know how it was for you going through school, or maybe you saw it as a teacher with certain students. School was easy for me. Yeah. I didn't have to try, and I consistently had B to A average, somewhere like that, like whatever. It was super easy. I didn't have to apply myself. Even in college, I didn't have to. Going through flight school was one of the toughest schools that I ever did.
Wow.
I struggled, and I really had to commit myself to learning how to learn, how to memorize things. There's, we call them bold items or, memory items that you have to memorize for certain emergency procedures, right? And I was never good at that. I never had to memorize it, and I could usually BS my way through whatever. I was smart enough to be able to do that. And when you're flying in the military and flight school, there's no BS in it, man. You either know it or you don't. And if you don't know your stuff, people are going to catch you on it. So I try to take what I learned through that process into learning about real estate, whether it's learning about the market, whether it's being like, hey, I want to be your go-to economist, right? Not everybody has time to sit there and look at the MLS and see what's going on with prices, see what people are offering, looking at, even broader economic data, what's going on with the U.S. economy in general. Like, that's stuff that I love to focus on. That's stuff that I want to do. And I want to take those principles that I learned in the military and apply it to that, where I'm like going at it like a bulldog, right? Like I'm going to bring in all this information, and I'm going to be the person who, when you need to find out what's going on in the market, talk to me, man, because I know my stuff, and I know that I know my stuff, and I don't want you to get caught with your pants down because you're listening to the wrong people or you're hearing the wrong advice, right? And that's the other thing that I want to do. And this as being as successful as you are and doing it for as long as you do it, or you've done it, you have to be a fiduciary for your clients. Mm-hmm. You have to take care of them. And if you're not taking care of your people, you're not taking care of your clients, what are you even doing?
Yeah. I'm glad that you brought that up. So that fiduciary, just so that everybody knows, and I'll explain this for a second. Fiduciary is our obligation to take care of our client, to act on their behalf in such a way to where we're looking out for their best interest and not necessarily our own. And it's a shame to say that in the real estate agent world, the mortgage world, gosh, this is why I partnered with Royal Health Insurance, because they have the same mindset too as we do. Yeah, they take care of their clients in the insurance world. They like. I'm glad that you brought this up. So, it is our obligation to take care of our clients and take care of them well, and not give them advice that is necessarily advantageous to us as business owners and as realtors, but is advantageous to them as the primary person in this transaction, and we are just a representation of.
Yeah, and that's kind of the answer that I give to people when they ask whether it's like, in this market, is this a good time to buy or is this a good time to sell? And I said, well, it depends. Yeah, it depends on your situation, right? Like there's no blanket answer for anybody, and you have to get to know your clients. You have to get to know the people that you're talking to in order to figure that out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just did a podcast about this a couple days ago. One of the things that we're seeing a ton of is this idea of like forever home, right? Yeah. And one of the things that hits on that, like it puts people in the mindset that they are justifying spending more money and not necessarily doing it well. Does that make sense? So I'm just gonna spend more money because I want the granite countertops, right? I'm gonna spend another $10,000, $20,000 because I want. Not necessarily the best move, right? Like, not necessarily.
And that goes back to being smart at whatever business that you're in. As a business owner, as an entrepreneur, you have to think about whether the dollars that you're putting into something, whether it's marketing material or whatever, are you going to get a return on investment on that? Like, yeah, you can get granite countertops and you can get this and that, but what's the return on investment for you? And it's not just measured in dollars, right? It's measured in your self-satisfaction, your happiness. Like, if you're not happy with your home and you're not happy to be in it, and you're going to look at those countertops every day and it's going to, piss you off, then yeah, maybe you should go with the granite countertops, or, piss your spouse off. You don't want to do that either. Yeah. But man, but definitely there gets to the point where it's just like, well, I got to have the nicest thing, and I got to have the biggest upgrade, and I got to do this and that. And sometimes you need somebody from the outside who's got an objective lens to come in and say, do you really? Yeah. Do you really? Because how much are you actually getting out of this? Because, in a couple months down the road, when, the buyer's high wears off, and you're looking at that, and you're just like, man, I don't even use that thing.
Yeah. Is it worth it?
Is it worth it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So for sure.
That is a real thing. We didn't get into this. We didn't discuss this, but I wanted to ask you, short-term rentals in your area are huge right now. Yeah. Right? Somebody who is looking at the idea, because I have a lot of friends up here who are like investing, entrepreneur side of things and getting into the market. A lot of people are focused on Florida right now, but I feel like you hit on this a second ago. There's an untapped market where you're at.
Oh, yeah.
Very much so. And so just hit on that really quick if you can.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, Wilmington's been an undervalued area. You've got a couple beaches there, not just in Wilmington, but you've got Topsail Beach, you got Riceville Beach, you got Carolina Beach, you've got Cary Beach. You even have downtown Wilmington. And if you're looking at short-term rentals and you're looking at investing somewhere, I think there's really no better place to do it. I just think outside of that local area where there's a lot of smart investors who are coming in and buying these places up, like as an individual, you can do the same thing. And in fact, I've got a couple people that are looking at potentially doing that, either going in with multiple investors, like I just talked to somebody about the other day, or they're just looking for, hey, I want to go down and visit my family that's down there every now and again, but outside of that, I want to Airbnb it out. And it's like, well, you definitely should. You're going to get your money back from it down there. One thing about inflation, you talk about the greater economy and the things that are going on right now. Look at what rents have done lately, right? Yep. Same thing with vacation rentals. I mean, the price is only going up. Yeah. The price is only going up. So if you're seriously considering investing, I think it's a great place to do it. And I think if you have the ability to, you should definitely get into the market there.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. Joe, lots of awesome information that you shared here, man. Super happy that we could have you on. You just happened to be in Michigan. The lovely.
Well, yeah, it's a great state, and I love coming back to it, man. I absolutely love it here. I think I was telling you earlier, went for a run this morning, and I ran through some leaves and just that old, like, almost like that playground feeling, when you're like in elementary school and you run outside and you got the leaves kicking up and you just smell it and you just, man, it brings you right back.
I love it. For people who are trying to or thinking about potentially moving to North Carolina, which where's it? Remind me of the city that you live in right now.
That's Wilmington. It's right on the coast, the southern portion of North Carolina.
But that's not the only area that you serve. You're capable and you do serve majority of North Carolina. There's not really anywhere that you're not willing to go for the most part.
Yeah, I would say that I wouldn't say majority. I would say you stick it more towards the coastal Carolina, coastal North Carolina. Now, if you do need, somebody that's in the state, there's, through the Keller Williams network and through our market center, if you are thinking about moving to somewhere like Raleigh or Cary, I know people that live out there. Yeah. I know agents that work out there, and we can definitely get you hooked up with the right person, because that's the other thing, right? Even if I can't give you business, I want to make sure that you're protected, and I want to make sure that you're with the right person.
Yeah, I love it. I think that's great. If somebody is trying to get a hold of you, whether that revolve around, I'm moving to North Carolina and I want to be in the area that you're talking about, I want to be in coastal Carolina, or I want to get involved in this a short-term rental deal, and it sounds like this is a really awesome location for me to do it.
Yep.
Can you tell me more? How would they get in contact with you?
Yeah, absolutely. You can reach out to me to my cell phone. It's as an agent, I'm sure like we're on call pretty much 24/7.
Yeah.
Usually text or call is fine. You can reach out 734-545-9200. The other thing is I'm really trying to leverage social media. I think it's a good way to reach out to people. Even if I never get your business, I enjoy putting stuff out there about me, and hopefully you find it interesting, and hopefully you're able to take a nugget of information that helps you out. But Instagram is going to be Real Estate Maverick, all one word, Real Estate Maverick. And then that's it, man. Those two social media, the social media account, and then my phone number.
I love it. Guys, thank you so much. Thanks, Joe, for coming in, man. I appreciate you coming out to the studio.
Thank you for having me on. It was an absolute pleasure, and it's really good to see you.
Yeah, you too, man. You too. Thank you guys for tuning in to today's episode of Tuesdays with Rory. We'll catch you next time on the next episode. But besides that, you guys have a very blessed day. We'll see you.